Welcome to this week's episode of the Inside Kingston podcast, where experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based in Kingston upon Thames are invited on to share their story with us. I'm your host, Amyr Rocha-Lima.
This week's episode of the Inside Kingston podcast is brought to you by Holland Hahn and Wills, a financial planning and wealth management firm based in Kingston upon Thames. Holland Hahn and Wills specialises in retirement planning for senior professionals and successful business owners. Visit hhw-uk.com to start feeling more relaxed and confident about your financial future.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Inside Kingston podcast. I'm joined today by Amyr Carter. Amyr is the founder of Glow Social, a social media consultancy that develops social media marketing solutions for businesses to help them grow and develop. What's unique about Amyr is how she draws from her previous corporate experience in media monitoring, incorporating strategy, planning, and creativity to her social media management services. And be sure to listen to the end, where Amyr shares with us some tips on how businesses can use social media to engage with the right audience in the right place at the right time. So whether you're interested in knowing more about social media marketing or would like to know more about what it takes to run a successful independent business, then I hope you enjoy this episode of the Inside Kingston podcast. Welcome, Amyr Carter, to the Inside Kingston podcast. Amyr, I'm really excited about this conversation because, well, I myself am a partner in a local business, and I'm always interested in picking the brains of professionals like you who actually specialize in helping small and medium-sized businesses get noticed through their digital marketing. And I'm sure our listeners can learn a lot from your expertise in this area. But to kick off this conversation, I'd like to go back in time, if that's okay. So, Amyr, where did you grow up?
Okay, so yeah, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not actually from around here. So I grew up in a little village called Thorngunbold, and it's just outside of Hull. So it's a little bit towards the coast. So yeah,
cool.
Not quite around here.
That's a beautiful part of the world up there as well.
It is, yeah, definitely.
Excellent. And did you go to university? And if so, what did you study?
Yes, so I went to university in Leeds. And I studied Spanish with media. So I think my main sort of reason for doing Spanish was I wanted my year in Spain in the middle of the course, which was a really good experience. And I wanted the media side for more a professional side of things.
Oh, wow. Excellent. And could you tell us a little bit about your career journey before you set up your business?
Yeah, so I'd say the main chunk of my career was spent within the sort of PR and comms sphere. So for about 10, 11 years, I worked in media monitoring. And what I mean by that is organisations that monitor the press and social media and broadcasting on behalf of other organisations to see where their PR and comms, where they appeared. And specifically, I was kind of more involved in specialist customer services. So the department that I ran helped customers with their copyright queries, because there's a lot of issues around copyright when you're receiving the press. Can you put it on your website? Can you put it on your social media channels? And also I managed a group of trainers who trained customers on the online platform. So I was involved in the product development of that platform as well. So it was quite varied, but it was very much within the sort of corporate sphere.
Absolutely. And bringing this conversation to the present, could you tell us a little bit about your business today?
Yes, of course. So my business, Glow Social, offers social media marketing services to small or any sort of business owner, really. But I tend to find that I am working with smaller businesses because ultimately that's the people I enjoy working with. I really enjoy, learning about their business, their story, and trying to sort of figure out they know where they kind of want to be, what their goals are, what their objectives are, and just helping them via social media marketing achieve those goals. I find it such an education a lot of the time. And what I offer is kind of like a tiered thing that I offer. So I can do training. So training on platforms or approaches or strategy or Facebook ads or anything really that they're sort of needing assistance with. Then the next level would be offering to create or help create strategies to actually, here's the knowledge, how are we now going to apply that? So we'll create a strategy of how they can implement all this knowledge into their actual everyday social media channels. And then obviously as well, I offer to just take the whole thing off their hands and manage it for them and just do that day-to-day work for them, as well as all that strategy work too.
That's really interesting. And Emma, there are definitely quite a few threads in there that I want to sort of pull with you throughout this conversation. I'm passionate about talking about this with professionals like you on this show, because I think it's something that small and medium-sized business owners locally really, really need to pay attention to. And this goes for me just as much as for other businesses in the area. And I mean this because radio became TV. And TV has become social media. Whether you use it as a bit of fun to consume or whether you use it as a platform to market your business, this is the new place where the eyeballs are all at, really.
That's right.
And I know you write about this in your blog. And there was one blog in particular you wrote, I read, in preparation for this interview, which you spoke about using social media to engage with the right audience at the right place at the right time. Could you tell us a little bit more about this?
Well, that's it. I mean, this all goes back down to the strategy of social media marketing. And I think a lot of the time people are a little bit scared sometimes by social media. There's a lot of talk of algorithms and things like that. And it can be confusing, or it can be one of those things that people then think, oh, do you know what, I'm going to come back to this another day. And so it gets pushed to the bottom of that list. So what I always want to tell people is, there is a simple approach to this. It does take a bit of time. It does take a bit of learning, but, you can achieve this. You can pick up those skills. So what's really important and what I try and tell my clients they need to do is they need to think first and foremost about their audience. Because ultimately, when you're speaking through your social media channels, you're speaking hopefully to your target audience, potentially your target customer. And so whenever you're creating content, you've got to keep that customer in your mind at all times. So the first thing anybody needs to do is kind of build out who that customer is. Really get to know them, drill down to who that person actually is, what they do, what they like, where they work, where they live. And then you start to lead on to the social media stuff. Where might they hang out online? What times of the day might they hang out online? And all of a sudden, a bit of strategy starts to come in. So, okay, if this person's a certain age and or they do a certain job, or they're perhaps a mother or something like that, are they most likely to be on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram? And what times of the day, if they're a working parent, for example, what times of the day are they likely going to be online? And that's when you start figuring out who is that right person, where is the right place, and where is the right time that you should be putting that content.
Yeah, I really like that, Emma. And it offers you access, doesn't it? I mean, social media offers us as small and medium-sized business owners access to our potential customers through, grabbing their attention with good content and with actually helpful information that would help them improve their lives in whatever field of expertise we happen to work in.
Absolutely. I mean, social media by its very name is social. So it allows you to strike up those conversations with customers that other forms of marketing perhaps don't let you reach. You can directly speak, even from a customer point of view, you get to speak potentially with brands or people that you would never normally speak to or be able to have a voice or a conversation with. One of the key things about social media is to keep it the interactions very meaningful and provide value. And so when people are when you're creating your content, again, when you're keeping that customer in mind, you want to be saying, so what do you think about this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How can I help you more? Asking those questions that are going to spark conversation. So all of a sudden, they're starting to trust your opinion, starting to trust your voice, and you're starting to build that customer relationship before they've bought. And so when they do get to that point of thinking, actually, I need to make this purchase, they're going to think, hang on a minute, I'm going to go back to them because I'm starting to trust them. I like those people and I like their values.
I think that's really valuable, Emma, and I appreciate you sharing that. The flip side of that coin, Emma, what are some of the common mistakes that you see businesses making with their social media strategy?
I think one of the things I say all the time is the key thing to social media marketing is, well, there's two things actually I always say. My first thing is always social media is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Unfortunately, there's no quick fix. You can't come to me and say, oh, I just want to fix this in 2 weeks. What's the answer? Because unfortunately, that's not how it works. And there's a lot of people out there that perhaps might offer quick fixes. And my big advice there is don't do it. So what I mean by that is employing certain tactics that aren't just seen as, the right thing to do, like buying followers or kind of using bots. Things like that. It's all it's just not cricket. It just doesn't work. And people either recognize it or the channels themselves recognize it. And you can get yourself banned actually in the most extreme situations. So it's things like that. So bear in mind that this is a process. You need a strategy and you'll get there in the end. My second thing that I probably say the most is consistency. You have to be consistent on the channels. Unfortunately, you need to put in that little bit of time. And there's ways and means that can help you be more efficient and use your time in the best possible way. But you have to be consistent. You have to be showing up. You have to be posting regularly. You have to be engaging regularly. And also consistency with your content. The topics that you're choosing to talk about, how your content looks, so it grabs the eye and people go, oh, I recognize that as XYZ organization because of, let's say, your branding colorings or your fonts or something like that. So yeah, be consistent.
Emma, what are some of the key business lessons you've learned throughout your life?
I think I'm a bit of an organization freak anyway. I love a good spreadsheet. I love a bit of organization. So that is always my key thing. Write everything down. And I think when it came to starting my business, one of the first things I did was just literally get a piece of paper, write down a plan. And because I think what you have to do is you have to be able to hold yourself accountable to a certain degree. Obviously, you can be flexible. It's not saying that plan you make at whatever moment in time is the plan you have to stick with for the rest of your career or your business life. But you have to have an idea of where you want to be, set your objective, set your aim, set your goal, and then you can work towards it. So I think that's the key thing I've learned throughout my career.
And when you look back at your career journey to date, what are you most proud of?
I think, to be honest, it's just setting up this business on my own, to be honest, because I had, as I say, 11, well, probably in total, sort of 15 years or so in a very corporate environment. And although that career did me well and I learned a lot and, had a lot of opportunities along the way, I really always wanted to work for myself, but I never really had the opportunity, or perhaps I never really had the guts to do it, in all honesty. And when I decided to set up on my own, again, still there's all that self-doubt, that sort of imposter syndrome, unfortunately, that creeps in and you're thinking, I can't do this. And when I just decided to go for it, I had to really talk to myself and change my mindset really about myself and be more positive. And that was a bit of a challenge at first, but I think once I nailed that, I thought, well, do you know what? I want to do this. It was the perfect time for me. Obviously then a few months down the line, the pandemic hit, which wasn't in my original plan. Obviously, I don't think it was in anybody's plan. So that was a bit of a, shock to the system. But even so, you roll with the punches, and here I still am. I know we're technically still in the pandemic, but my business is still here. I'm proud of what I've achieved so far. So here's hoping for the future.
That's really cool, Emma. And hats off to you for that sort of positive energy, just absolutely flowing from the words you were saying there. I think that serves as inspiration to a lot of people. And in fact, I wanted to actually segue into something which we haven't touched upon, which is COVID-19 and, of course, the pandemic. I'm guessing that your business, of course, is all to do with digital marketing and social media, which lives outside of sort of face-to-face social interactions. Is it fair to say that this perhaps is one of those moments in time where small and medium-sized businesses locally should really be thinking about how they will, quote unquote, network with their audience going forward?
Absolutely. I mean, what we've seen, obviously, when going into lockdown and afterwards, is that more and more people are having to move their business to home when they're perhaps in a premises or they were in an office. And they've had to be flexible and make changes. But obviously, with social media, it's still a really accessible channel for you to still reach your customers and be able to offer what you have done before, but in a slightly different way. And you can get your customers engaging with you still. And I think more than ever, having that presence online consistently can really serve you well.
Absolutely. Emma, what next for you and your business? Are there any projects in the pipeline that you can tell us about?
Well, there's something in its very sort of early stages that I have in my mind, and it's more to do with the training side of things. I really feel quite passionate about being able to empower small business owners to be able to do this stuff for themselves and to be able to give themselves that knowledge and have the confidence in their abilities to be able to carry the stuff out for themselves. And so right now what I'm trying to focus on is perhaps a package or a training package of workshops that will enable people to learn from me, learn from my expertise and my experience to be able to apply it to their own social media marketing approach and have that confidence, but also have, a way in to ask somebody questions to actually get to the bottom of what it is they want to find out. So yeah, I'm in the first stages of working out exactly how that would work in practice, but hopefully it won't be too long and I'll be able to put it out there.
Exciting times ahead.
Mm.
Good. As we start to wrap up, I'd like to ask you a few quick fire questions that our listeners are always interested in. So, okay. Emma, what do you do to relax outside of the office?
Well, having two small children, I don't get a lot of free time to myself, I have to admit. I mean, back in the day, music was always a big thing for me. I always used to love going to watch live music, but obviously with the current situation, but even prior to that, having children doesn't always mean that you've got the free time to do those things. I think so mainly is spending time with the family. We like, getting outside, going, to the local woods or the countryside. Very lucky to have the Surrey Hills and all that really close to us. So we like to go and have a little wander and a little explore. I like to try and do a bit of exercise if I can. Again, I think that's really good for your mindset. Start off the day with a bit of exercise, get those endorphins going. But yeah, that's about all I have time for, really.
That's excellent. Are there any books that you've recently read that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Again, time is always an issue. And I think, I have one that's on my to-do list because I have a bit of a sort of nerdy passion about history and sort of the Tudors and Henry VIII. It's very apt, obviously being in the local area in Hampton Court. So my list is the third one in the Hilary Mantel series, where she wrote Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies. And the newest one is called The Mirror and the Light. And I've had it for ages and not been able. I was supposed to be going on holiday over the summer, but it got cancelled. And I had it already teed up for them. So yeah, that will be the book I would recommend once I've read it.
I'm a bit of a history nerd as well, so I'll definitely put that on the to-read list. Are there any movies or TV shows you've recently watched that you'd recommend to our listeners?
I think the two that stand out for me that I've just watched, and to be honest, we binge watched these, was on Netflix, Ozark. There's 3 series up there right now, and I wasn't sure about it first. It was a recommendation from somebody else. And when you watch like the first episode of something and you're like, okay. And then that was it then. I was in. And we just got through 3 series so quickly. So I'd recommend Ozark and I would recommend Succession. That's another one that I binged all the way through.
Yeah, I second Ozark. It became a bit of a thing in the UK financial planning community for obvious reasons. Well, that will become obvious for people who watch it for all the wrong reasons, let's just say that, but a super well-written show and really well acted as well.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Finally, where can people go to find out more about you and your business?
Of course. Okay, so I have a website at glowsocial.co.uk, And I am most active on Instagram and Facebook as well. My handle is glowsocial.uk. And with my channels as well, it's a really good little resource for small businesses, because I give away a lot of free tips, some advice, free help sheets, all stuff like that, that can help you with your day-to-day. So yeah, check it out.
And for the benefit of our listeners, I'll make sure that I add these resources to the show notes. Emma, thank you for joining us here on the Inside Kingston podcast. It's been a pleasure getting to know your story.
Thank you for having me.
That wraps up another episode of the Inside Kingston podcast. Make sure to check out our guests' website, pay them a visit, and help spread the word about what they're doing. If you have any questions or know someone who should be a guest on the show, please feel free to get in touch. I would also love it if you could go to iTunes and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on some great guests, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rate well on iTunes so that others can find and enjoy the show too. Thanks for listening.